Hi, everyone. It's Misty Belles. Welcome back to the second episode of Zero F's Era. We're so excited to have you back, or if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're very happy to have you here. In a heavily divided world, I think we can all agree that cancer sucks. When I was younger, call it my carefree 20s and my grown up 30s, I felt like it was a disease that caught up with you in your 50s or older, and that seemed so far away. Well, guess what? My 50s are here, and I feel like the C word is everywhere now. But now it's a tricky bastard that is sneaking up on younger and younger adults. Well, today I'm joined by a very close friend, and in full disclosure, my roommate from college, to learn a little bit more about her journey. So, welcome, Raychel Funk, to Zero F's Era.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, we start every conversation with the truth that we don't say aloud. So, I will ask you now, what is your truth?
Truth we don't say aloud. Well, my truth is cancer made me hot.
I love that so much, and I have to say that the first time you told me this was after, I'll say, more than a couple drinks when we were in Soho together one night, and I just, like, doubled over laughing because I thought it was so great. Now, I also wanna say, because I know you very well, you don't mean to belittle the experience at all by saying that, but please tell me more about how cancer made you hot.
Cancer is hard from the diagnosis when you don't know what's going to happen and if you're going to be okay to going through the treatment to managing your family and your kids and all of that. I was 39 when I was diagnosed. Looking back, I still had a lot to learn and cancer and it's messy and it's hard and you have to dig really deep. And what I found is in doing that, I discovered a strength I didn't even realize I had. I was looking around and realizing like, oh, I'm doing this. Like I'm managing this. My kids are okay. My husband, who is wonderful and very supportive, we were doing it. And sort of at the end of the experience, which the whole cancer treatment and everything was about a year, um, I felt stronger than I had ever felt, and I felt stronger than I ever believed I was. My truth was that I just sort of stopped and looked around and realized that I was so lucky. I had so much family and wonderful friends around me, but there were also some people in my life who, for lack of a better word, didn't show up. I felt like this is my life, and I'm gonna create a life full of wonderful, supportive people, and it's okay to reevaluate who's in your life, even if you thought they might be there forever. It's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. And I mean, it gives you perspective. It sounds like it empowered you, and
Mm.
it does give you some freedoms. It sounds like as well. And you were very fortunate to, as you say, have this great support system. Um,
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about this sort of journey that you went on. You said you were diagnosed at 39. You went through treatment, or that was your first, but not your last.
Right, correct. Yes, I was diagnosed initially in 2011 with
Breast cancer, we should clarify.
stage 3 breast cancer. Um, and then, I went through chemo and radiation. First, I went through two surgeries. And then chemo for 6 months and then radiation for 6 weeks after that, and that everything seemed fine. I went on a medication, tamoxifen, which a lot of people who've been through breast cancer are familiar with. It just sort of keeps the estrogen blocked, so you can't make new cancer out of anything that's moving around in your body because cancer is smart and it can take testosterone or progesterone and turn it into estrogen and make cancer out of it. So I had kind of come to the end of that and everything looked great and it continued to look great for 6 years. At which point I went for a routine exam. My oncologist said, even though you're in remission, let's do I want to get you to do an MRI of the chest wall of the breast to make sure everything's clear. And at that point, we found that there were several nodules across my lungs. So, fortunately, we caught it early because I had great doctors and great care. But that did sort of push me over into the stage 4 metastatic breast cancer world.
For those of us who have not gone on this journey, explain what that means because stage 4, when you told me, I sort of immediately crumbled and went into tears, which is not what you wanted or needed. I'm sorry, it was not your best support of strength in that moment. But can you explain a little bit more about what that means?
Yes, thank you for asking because it is confusing. There is a misnomer. When people hear stage 4 cancer, they sort of picture, end of life.
Yeah,
That's what people, right. And what's depicted on TV or the movies or whatever. And so, stage 4, all that means, and stage 4 and metastatic cancer is that, those words are interchangeable. And basically, it means that your cancer traveled from the original organ. For me, it was breast to a different organ. For me was lungs. So, and breast cancer can move to to different parts of the body. For me, it went to the lungs. And so it traveled to the lungs, but they were so tiny that they were barely able to diagnose it. So that put me in a really, positive, like I
the
have a,
best possible scenario for this
exactly.
situation. Okay.
Exactly, because we were able to immediately remove my ovaries to make sure that I was unable to produce any more
Yeah, so
estrogen
it doesn't
ever
keep
again.
traveling to really the places it wants to manifest itself and expand. Okay.
Yes, it's that it's a tricky bastard, that cancer. Went on different medications, including a chemo pill that I'll take forever, or at least, until I need to start something different. I'm sort of best case scenario. I mean, this all happened in 2017. And, here we are all these years later in 26 and I'm still, it's we sort of cleared the cancer. There's one tiny little spot maybe, but it could be dormant or dead, but it hasn't grown or moved or anything and it's been like that for years. So I'm feeling really positive about it.
So, you've lived with this, you'll continue to live with it in some way. I remember you telling me though, because you had these little boys when you were diagnosed, you're like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for cancer. I would imagine that is something a lot of women say, like, look, I gotta bake cupcakes for something. I've got to be here. I've got to do that. Like, how did you deal with it in that moment of, wait a second, I gotta switch gears?
Yeah. I remember that moment so well. I was standing in the doorway of my bedroom, kind of looking out to the rest of the house, looking at my 4-year-old. And I opened literally opened my calendar and I saw, oh, Ethan has a science project. Oh, Austin has this. Th- I don't have time for this. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Tell
And
me to come back. I'm busy. Yeah.
yeah, like, no thanks. I mean, I'm a mom. What am I supposed to do with this? Just gotta dig deep, like I'm trying to remember my thought process. I remember just taking a deep breath and I mean, as we do as moms or dads or, humans in the world, you just figure it out. You just put one foot in front of the other. My kids came first. So I had to fake it till you make it, and we weren't really sure what the prognosis was yet. So that's probably the scariest part when you don't really know, gosh, am I going to be here for my kids? Am I going to be here for graduation? All of those things. And I think that's one of those defining moments for me when I realized, okay, you know, I have a finite amount of energy. We all have a finite amount of energy when we wake up in the morning. And what am I going to spend my energy on? And at the time, I only had energy for, what was right around me, what needed me.
As a rule, I think women are masters at compartmentalizing. So I'll ask you, is that just an impossible feat when you're facing and fighting this enemy that you can't see? Were there certain things that you were able to do to cope and get through it? Was it, I know you're very big into health and fitness. Was that a piece of it? Like, how did you power through the day? You're trying to keep this from your little boys and make sure they're not scared. You're trying to go through treatment, trying to keep, the wheels on the track, all of that.
I was in the best shape of my life. I mean, I was doing CrossFit. I had,
There's the
I was
irony, right? Best
yeah,
best shape of your life and yeah.
and the healthiest of my friends. Nobody could believe this is what I was dealing with, right? I couldn't. And so, but you just got to hunker down. So, you can't, you've got to pull your energy back to you. And for me, it was, I decided at that moment, like, I'm going to move my body every single day, even if it's just down the block, even if it's down the long driveway to go get the mail. For me, I needed to know that although I felt like my body was failing me, that I was still in control of my body and that I could decide to get up and to move my body. And I still went to CrossFit. I was probably not doing, I know I wasn't doing what I was doing prior to chemo, but I showed up. I showed up to CrossFit, on my good days, and I weight trained and I moved my body, and it helped me emotionally. It helped me feel in control of the situation that nobody can control.
Kudos to you. I can't like get myself together for CrossFit on my best days and I have no health issues to prevent me from going. So it's amazing that you were able to summon the strength to do that. I will say though that having known you for a very long time, even in college, you were far more fit than I was at any given point. You were in the gym when I was not. So there are some silver linings that come out of this. First of all, cancer made you hot. You came back with a fabulous hairstyle now. I love your pixie cut, and that became your look. And then there's some other things that came out of this as well in terms of how you've taken your experience and shared it with others.
What I noticed happening towards the end of my treatment, as I was wearing my scarf, and there was a woman who came up to me, and she had a child at my son's preschool. And she came up and she said, "You go through everything you're going through gracefully," which I laughed because nothing felt graceful about it, but I appreciated it. And told me that her cousin had just been diagnosed with breast cancer. And would I mind reaching out and talking to her, because she also had two little kids and she didn't know how she was going to manage it. And at that moment, I think I found my calling. It was like, maybe this is why I went through it. Maybe I have all of this to offer. I had some older women who had mentored me, but they didn't have my life with little kids and all of those things. So for me, it felt so good to be able to speak with a younger woman and just tell her everything that I learned. I got a feel for what it was she was worried about, and we addressed those issues. And then of course she had physical questions about her cancer and things to ask the doctor, which I could help her with. The truth we don't say out loud. Speaking of that, there were a lot of things that, your oncologist doesn't talk to you about, like all of the physiological things that happen with your body. And, there are a lot of things that I wish I had known. So,
Why do you
let's
think they're not more forthcoming about those kinds of things? I feel like just in general, when you go through something that is traumatic for your body, whether it's cancer treatment or even having children, childbirth does it too. Like they don't give you the full picture. And so you're so caught off guard when if you knew you could just deal.
Well, that's true. And I also think that there are so many possible side effects that don't happen, and so many that do. I'm not sure if my situation, so when I went through it, my husband and I, have always been very close physically. This is always an important thing for us. When I started chemo and I was put into menopause, your girly bits are affected by menopause, right? And so I was unaware of that. I was 39. I hadn't experienced any of that yet.
You're
And
like, wait, I'm not done with this yet.
I'm not done. This still needs to work for me.
Exactly.
I have not retired this yet. And so one evening we attempted that. We attempted to be together, in that way. And I got a little tear down there. And it was a problem because without estrogen in your body, that little tear, it didn't heal. It wouldn't heal. And so because we made a mistake, we ran out of, lube. And instead of just, saying, okay, we're going to pause this until tomorrow when we have it, I didn't know better. we just proceeded because it's never been a real problem for me in the past.
Exactly, and nor did you know it would become a bigger problem, that it would lead to something else.
Exactly. And so this little tear that happened in the beginning of my treatment did not heal for about 8 months. And we were not able to be together in that way for that whole time because it was too painful. And so if I could stop one woman from going through that, that was my goal. So I would say get a pen. These are some things you need to know. I think maybe our oncologists don't tell us that because maybe their patients haven't told them that
Share that.
specific thing.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to freak everyone out that this is all these terrible things are going to happen to your body. I'm not sure, but I think it's something that needs to be said. And so that I didn't want anyone to make the same mistake I made.
No, I mean, it's incredible that you can share that sort of hard-won insight, and wisdom with somebody else. And I mean, I'm sure in those moments you're just craving intimacy. So to not be able to have that for 8 months of your treatment must have been really difficult for both of you because you
Mm,
do want some closeness and normalcy when you're going through a situation that's anything but normal.
that's very true. And I was trying to keep things normal for everyone, including my husband. And, I just felt like it was another failure of my body. And I had to just try not to take it on as a forever thing because a year is a long time. And, I remember just my mantra was one foot in front of the other. This too shall pass. We will come out on the other side. And yeah, so
You have that was 1 year out of how many of you been married now?
yeah, 20, almost 27 years. Yeah. Mhm.
So the mentoring piece of that I know has been been really cathartic for you. Tell me what it has led to, because this is really an exciting turn of events in your life. I know something that you've been working on for a long time. So share with
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you. Well, I have a good friend, Laura Pastor, and through her treatment, Laura and I have been friends for over 30 years. And so when I went through cancer, she was by my side during it. And 8 years later, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so I was by her side. And as she was going through chemotherapy and radiation and her whole journey, she met a couple of other women that she connected with who were also going through breast cancer. And so Laura had an idea to for the four of us to come together and write a book, just share our stories as four very different women with very different stories. So we all sort of sat down and wrote our stories and put them together in a book, which we're very proud of. And it just got released. And I can pull one out and just show you for a
Show us.
shameless plug. It's called Pink Lemonade.
I love the lemons and look how sassy you look on the end there. It's so cute.
Well, it's
Just like you walk around with lemons on your chest all the time.
yeah, like just lemons. Here they are.
Just your Saturday look. Yeah. You're more cash.
So it was really cathartic. That part was really cathartic because because all of those years later I sat down and it helped me process things. I'm really pretty good at processing along the way. I think you know that. I've always been like, let's talk about this. What's going on in your life? Let's really get in there. And but to sit down again all of those years later and kind of just go through my story from beginning to current was really something. I sort of got back in there and it reconnected me with my strengths and and then I had tears like, oh yeah, that was really sad. That was really hard. And I did that. And I got to look back on it all these years later in a different light. So um, yeah, it's something I'm really proud of. I feel like it was a way for me to get my story down, just get it out there, and I've been just giving it giving the book to everyone I know who's going through cancer, breast cancer, or, you
People
know,
who they're close to who are going through treatment as well.
absolutely. It's helpful for caregivers as well. Absolutely.
Did you have a different perspective on things, hindsight being 2020, being able to sit down and write your story out? Did it change your perspective in any way of how you viewed things at the time versus looking back on it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it changed my perspective. Again, it was just sort of like another way to reclaim myself. It was another way for me to honor what I had been through. And it helped me also connect with the women I speak with. And I speak with a lot of women who are going through mostly breast cancer, but I speak with women who are going through a lot of different types of cancer as well. Um, because a lot of the same kind of move throughout different types of cancer. So it helped me sort of connect with them differently and better also.
And I would assume kind of give you some ownership over that situation now, that you're on the other side of it, of being able to say, okay, I went through that and here's what's come out of it. And now, cancer didn't know me, you owned it.
That's right. And again, it sort of gave me I was sort of stopped in my tracks like, hold on. I felt great about myself afterwards. I mean, I remember just feeling like I think I might be the strongest person I know. And I don't know if that's true. I'm sure it's not, but I
Sure,
felt
it
like it
is. I
was,
mean,
like
having
I
gone
just
through that, I'm sure it is.
I just feel like and again, I was very blessed to have, you know, have a lot of care and support around me. And also that made me stop and realize that there were relationships in my life that were not honoring me. And maybe at one time they did, and I'm the kind of person who, once you're in my heart, you're going to be there forever. And
No, I get that warmth from you. But, that's a good segue into what we call the permission slip, which is what did you give yourself permission to just let go of?
my permission slip was to acknowledge the fact that people change. And even though this is someone, I mean, I had someone in my life for, many decades who I thought would be there forever. And I had to love myself enough to let her go and to say, it's okay. I love you and thank you. And I don't need this anymore. This is creating low vibrations for me. This is making me feel worse about myself. I leave our interactions and feel drained, and I don't need that. I don't need that. We have choices that we can make, and what I've really learned is evolution is crucial. If we don't evolve, then we're stuck. I'm pretty good at hard conversations. So I had a lot of them with her, a lot of
Okay,
them.
so this wasn't a slow fade and we're just gonna not talk. You were like,
Well,
"This
there
is
was
what I
nothing
need from you and
slow
what I'm not getting."
about it. It wasn't just she didn't call me and ask me how I was doing that day. What I realized is that I've always sort of been a people pleaser. I like it when the people around me are comfortable and everyone's getting along. And so I think also I blow things off. I can blow things off. I'm not high drama. I never was. So so I had some really hard and very direct conversations, and they fell on deaf ears. I tried for years actually, and I realized at some point, like, this is what am I doing? What am I doing? Like, I have great people in my life too, and what I realized is I would rather have a few or even one friend that I can hold right here and know she's in it with me. We're doing life together. That's how I feel about you, Missy. We're gonna do this life together forever. No matter what you go through, no matter what I go through, even if we don't talk for, I mean, many years at one point we didn't talk. and then we come back together like
And it's
this.
like no time passed and we're right back in it. But
And the energy is full of love and acceptance, and there's history, and it's just altruistic, and that's what I'm looking for. And so the permission slip was, first of all, it shouldn't be this hard. It's worth it. I'm not one to bail on a friend. So I worked at it. And then at some point it's like, what am I doing? I'm the only one working here, and it's okay. And thank you for your service, and I'm done,
yeah,
you know?
friendships should fill your cup, not drain it. And so whenever I spend time with you, my cup fills up. We have fun and we laugh and we compare stories and all of those things, and my cup is filled. And if that doesn't
Mhm.
happen for you in a friendship, I'm not sure it's really a friendship.
That's right. That's right. Mhm.
Being able to do that, and given the journey that you've had, I feel like you're in your zero F's era. Do you feel like you're in your zero F's era?
I definitely feel like I'm in my zero F's era. Absolutely. And I can't distinguish if it's because I am in my 50s, which I think there is a huge component of that. In our lives, you know, we live our lives, we make decisions and choices, and then we get to a point where, we can look back at all the things we've done and all the relationships that we do have. I feel really good about myself. And at this point in my life, I don't have time for nonsense. So I just, I don't need it. And so I stopped pouring myself into things that don't pour back.
Do you have any advice for someone who is on their zero F's journey right now, who may not be there yet, but is working towards that?
I do. Yeah. So one thing, and I still do this to this day, whenever I feel like I need some grounding, or like maybe there is something that's complicated, or an interaction that I had, I think it's really important for all of us if we can just sort of stop and quiet the noise and really tune in to what's in here. So a lot of times we're responding and reacting based on expectations. It can just unground us, right? And so I think it's really important, and especially for someone who's starting her zero F's era, she's starting to second guess things, or starting to finally come out of her shell and go, wow, quiet the noise and tune in, because you know what's right for you. You know if it feels right or if it doesn't. Even if you can't identify what is it that's not feeling right now. Do a journal, think about it, write about it, just give yourself a space, meditate. That's very helpful.
I think that's great advice, and I completely, wholeheartedly agree. There's something that's really magical when the biggest voice in your head is your own versus everyone else's.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Well, Rach, thank you so much for talking with me today, for sharing your wisdom with everyone who's listening, but also with all the women that you've helped along the way. I know there is a grateful army because you have been just so open and honest and helpful to so many women. And then, of course, you've always been there for me. So I just thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Well, thank you. And Misty, I love this Zero F's era podcast. I think it's so encouraging, and it's so validating, and it's a platform to get women to stop and think about, okay, yeah, this is a thing. Yes, I am feeling that, and to help us kind of root in it. And I think it's fantastic. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly what we're hoping to do. So thank you. I appreciate it. Well, for anyone listening, please make sure to follow us on Instagram, or you can email us at zerofsera@gmail.com. And remember to be all out of F's for the things that just don't matter so that you can make room for the things that do. Thanks, everyone.